Hey guys, this is Daniel Cutright, host of the Winning Mentality podcast. Just wanted to take a minute before we get into the show today and say thank you to all of the listeners, your continual support. It's so much appreciated. And we're actually in the process now of looking for sponsors for the Winning Mentality podcast, which is exciting. And so if you want to get the word out about your brand, product, or event, we have some phenomenal guests coming up soon. You can reach out to me via email. It's cutrightpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, cutrightpodcast@gmail.com. And we can find a way to work together to tap into our network of loyal listeners to keep the show going strong. Support comes from listeners like you. So thank you again for your continued support, encouragement, and sharing each episode to spread these awesome stories and positivity they deliver. If you enjoy the show, you can show your support by donating via Venmo to username @winningmentality. You can think of Venmo as like a virtual tip jar. And so these donations will go towards hosting and production expenses, whether it's $1 a month or $10 a month. It's all appreciated and helps keep the show going strong. And so think of it like once a month, you're buying me, the host, a cup of coffee. I love coffee and I love doing the show. And so it's all very much appreciated. Even if it's just a one-time donation, that's awesome too, and can help us continue to grow the show and leverage additional resources to keep bringing on quality guests and inspire more and more people. And so if you decide to donate, feel free to also include a short message and let me know why, whether you just enjoy the conversations or maybe there was a specific episode that impacted you in some way, shape, or form. I would love to hear about it. Last thing before we get into the interview, I'm always appreciative of the listeners who take the time to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. These reviews and ratings help new listeners find the show and also let future sponsors know what the listeners like you think. Thanks to everyone who recently shared an episode on their Instagram and Twitter as well. Tag me and the guests from that week, and I'll do my best to reshare. So again, thank you for all the support. Now let's get to it. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the show. My name is Daniel Cutright, your host, and it is a real pleasure and honor to have our guest on today, the legendary Coach George Williams. George, how are you? Thank you for being here.
I'm doing well, Daniel. I've just been chilling out, man, like the young people say, not much to do, watching the grass grow now that I've retired.
I hear you. Well, George, I got to give folks a little bit of a background on you so they know who they're hearing from today. And you spent 44 years coaching at St. Augustine's and developed quite the powerhouse of a program there where you won, and correct me on any of these numbers if I'm wrong too, but 39 NCAA titles.
Right. You're right. Yeah.
33 times you were NCAA runner-ups. You
right.
had 282 individual titles.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Coached over 40 Olympians.
Right.
You have 20 NCAA Division II Coach of the Year awards. You were the head coach of the U.S. Olympic track and field team in 2004, the assistant coach in 1996, which in that Olympics, if I'm not mistaken, every athlete that you were responsible for had a gold medal. Is that right?
That's right.
Love it. Love it. I coached on multiple world championship teams. I liked this one. When you were coaching at St. Augustine's, you had a 95% graduation rate amongst athletes.
Yes,
yep.
Yes, my motto at St. Augustine's University, and excuse the language, I'm not this kind of guy, but it was that you might be fast, but your ass is going to class. Okay?
I love it.
I tell people I apologize for anyone that.
Hey, well, you remember that one. I like that. Two more here for you, and I know there's too many for me to name, but you've been named to 9 different Hall of Fames.
Yes, sir.
And just most recently, you received the 2022 USATF Legends Coaching Award that was presented at the World Championships. And when I say those 39 NCAA titles too, that is the third most of any coach in any division across any sport. Is that right?
That's right.
That's right. So to my audience, you were hearing from a legend today, and this is a real treat for me. I grew up around the sport of track and field, like I mentioned to you, George, and today is going to be a chance, I think, for people to gain a lot of just wisdom and mindset and hear a little bit about your coaching journey. And so one of the questions I want to ask you to start things off here, and I'm going to get right into it. You coached for 44 years. You built this program. You had all this success. But what was it that kept you in coaching for this long and kept you showing up every day?
Well, somebody helped me along the way. And the student athletes that I was getting needed help. And I knew the kind of help I can get them. And the help is to help them get an education, to teach them how to be productive citizens in this world. And it seemed like it was paying off. And I've had other job offers and making much more money than I was making there. But, you know, sometimes the grass is not green on the other side. And when you know you're helping young people, then you kind of stick with it. It was something about me and the parents, and we all had the same vision about this child. And I have a child of my own. So I would want anybody to treat my child the same way I would treat your child. And so when those kids got there, and every time I say I'm going to retire, there's another good kid come over and needs help. And I finally got some help to get out of there. Okay.
I love that. I love that. And you were a St. Augustine's grad in 1965.
Right.
And you were actually a pretty stud basketball player. Is that right?
Well, I can put the numbers up, man. I tell you, they talking about Curl. I never forget that Bob Danbridge and Earl of Pearl said I had the conference record. And I said, what record I have? They said the most attempts. I would shoot it in a minute.
They said you could break down a zone defense like nobody's business.
Right. I was a sharpshooter for the school. Yeah, I break it down quick.
Okay. And so then you came on board to start coaching in 1968, coaching.
1976. I've really been there 48 years.
Okay. And so how did you make the shift? Because you did coach basketball for a little bit, but
right.
You had
I was a basketball coach, and the track coach at St. Augustine's University, Coach Harvey, decided that he was going back to his hometown in Virginia. And Dr. Wally Davis, who was the dean of students, and he asked me would I hold the track program down for him for about until they find someone. And I said, well, you know, I'll do that because I'm the assistant basketball coach and I hold the track program down. I can do that before I go to basketball practice. And so I guess the rest is history, because from 1976 to 96, and I was the assistant Olympic coach, I was still interim track and field coach. They're still looking for somebody. So eventually a new president got in, Dr. Franklin, and he decided to make me head track and field coach and athletic director.
Were there some challenges that you faced early on in your coaching career, or maybe big lessons that you learned as a young coach?
Well, that was a lot of challenges. You have to learn. First of all, when I started the business, I went to people that I knew very well. I went to Dr. Leroy Walker and asked him, you know, about track and field and how he set up his programs for his track program. And he gave me a lot of stuff. And I think he wrote a book on biomechanics and technique. He got his PhD at New York University. So I got that, reading it, but didn't quite understand what I was reading. And I would bring him over sometime to my practice to show me some of the techniques that he was talking about in his biomechanics. And then I went to Big House Gaines, who was a very good friend of mine. He was the basketball coach and I played basketball. And my first team was St. Augustine's basketball team. And he said, hell, George, you can't win no track meets with basketball players. You got to go and get some track runners. So that let me know then, being from Miami, I know what the track runners were. And so I went down to Miami and I had a good friend named Coach Richardson, Roosevelt Richardson, and he was coaching at Miami-Dade Community College. And so I went there and I told him that I was the track coach at St. Augustine's University. And we don't have a program. We don't even have a track. But if they would like to come and try to develop and build a track program there with me, I would be glad. And so at that time, I had about 6 or 7 kids that decided to come and help me build a track with Roy Ector leading the bunch. And so we got there and we ran on the grass, and I learned how, but mechanics, I learned how to do plows. When people were building houses around the school, I'd get all the trash they throw away and take the plywood and build boxes with. And I tried to do a lot of fast twist stuff. I did a lot of endurance work, though. I can do that because I put them on the road. We had a little place we call the Cream, and there's a Krispy Kreme up at the top of the hill. So we start from St. Aug, run down the hill, up the hill, and run by Krispy Kreme and back to St. Aug's, which is about maybe 5 miles, 3 miles for the women. And so I got that program going, and eventually the kids started buying into it, because with all that, my promise to each one of them parents, if they believe in the process and believe in what I believe in, they would graduate. I didn't tell no parent, nobody they can run fast. You know, you got to bring it to the table to run fast. And I didn't have that, but there was some kids that had good talent. And so we worked on it, and they believed in the relationship that I had with them. I treat them like my own kids. They were mine because, when you get parents down in my neck of the woods, Florida, them parents look, I sat down and talked to them and sat on their porch and started talking to them. They got to make sure they trust you,
Yeah.
And they did. And I got some very good kids out of Florida, out of Miami. And then we started working, and then the talent. And then 1985, I think we won our first national championship, an indoor championship. So we started working, and then around 1990 something, we got our track, and it's going on from there. Mm-hmm.
So you coached for almost 15 years there at St. Aug's before you even had a track to train on.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And still were able to win a national championship before you even had your own track.
Right. Yeah. I mean, come on, running is running, man. And
yeah.
And biomechanics and strength condition is what it is, and and if you buy into what I'm trying to do, then when you get on the track, boy, you got wings. we were so glad to see a track. When we go to a track meet, everybody wonder why we were running so fast. We were just enjoying the track. We didn't know what we were doing. We were running so fast, we didn't understand, They didn't know we come off the grass.
Oh, and
we had cinders one time, cinders most of the time.
Yeah. No, I love that, because I think sometimes people will blame their lack of success in something for their lack of resources. And it just seems like you were just thankful for the resources that you did have. And when you did get on the opportunity to run on tracks, the kids were excited about it.
Right. I've always been thankful. Our finance was really poor. A lot of the kids, had to get some kind of aid to go to school. And I had friends in the city who would give scholarship money to the program and to the institution. And it was a tough road, but those kids hung in there. And once they started graduating, then they started recruiting for me. They started bringing other kids, say, hey, you want to go to school with Coach Williams. If you want to get an education, you better go to Coach Williams. Now, Coach Williams is not going to take any mess. He don't take any mess off anybody. Because I never forget in 1999, I think, in Seville, Spain, we were running the relay, 4x1 relay. And American hadn't won one in a long time. And so I told John Drummer, Tim Montgomery, Bryant Lewis, and Maurice Green the way I wanted to set the relay team up. And they told me, well, we all national champions. Drummond had won a national champion. Green had won one, and definitely Montgomery. And so everybody wanted to run ankle. And I said, no, that ain't the way we're going to run this team. I said, we're going to lead off with John Drummond. We're going to go to Tim Montgomery, because he had a pretty good curve running. Then we'll go to Brian Lewis, because I wanted him to run the short leg because he didn't have the stamina and the rest of them. And I put Maurice Green on anchor. And they said, oh, no, we're going to run. And I said, okay, I tell you what, this is what I got to go over here for about 5 minutes and talk to somebody. And when I come back, I want John Drummer passing the baton to Montgomery, and I want Lewis passing it to Green. And then when we get together, I put it all together. And so when I walk back, and I said, by the way, if it's not together the way I want it, I'm going to run the shot putters. I'm going to run a relay with whether you on it or not. If I have to run the shot putters, I'm going to run a relay. And if you're not doing the way I said do it, then you're not running the relay. And boy, next thing I got back, them guys were rolling. And we did well, and we won the championship. That won the 4x1 that year.
Wow. What was those guys' response maybe after that, after they went and won it? Did the tune change then?
They knew I knew what I was talking about, but their response is that they tell all the other lads, don't play with Coach Williams. Coach Williams was about business, you know? And I was about business for them, because anybody work hard to achieve something, then if you got somebody who can kind of help you achieve more, then listen. That's all you have to do. Listen. I used to tell my daughter and my granddaughters now that if somebody want to talk to you, walk up there and listen to what they got to say. And if you don't like what they're saying, then walk away just like you walked up, because the fact that but they might tell you, hey, I'm getting ready to give you $1 million. You don't know what they're going to say. Listen first and then make your decision later.
Yeah.
And a lot of kids want to make a decision before they even listen.
Yeah. One of the things I noticed, and I was reading an article where they were mentioning your story, George, and it was, you talked about the importance of relationships, and you just mentioned it there too. And I noticed where you said kids were starting to recruit for you, and they were saying, you want to go run for Coach Williams. They didn't say you want to go run at St. Augustine.
Right.
How important were developing those relationships with the athletes? You know, sometimes I think, and I heard a coach say this to me one time, I was getting my master's degree in exercise physiology. And he said, Daniel, he said, it's good to know exercise physiology, but don't become an exercise physiologist.
Right.
And the reason he said that is because kids don't care about the science,
right,
as much as they care about how much you care about them. And
about the love. That you are so right, Dad. You hit it right on the head. I don't care where a kid come from, what kind of environment she or he came from. They want love. Okay, you got to show that you love them. Because sometimes I tell my kids, I say, well, now if you don't get your books now, I'm gonna send you uptown, and uptown is where the jail is. They say, oh, they're gonna send us uptown. And I said, another thing, if you don't get your books, I'll see you somewhere, and you're gonna ask me, do you want some fries with that? You'll be working at McDonald's or someplace. And so I stay on top of them, and they love, and I always had, and I when they're wrong, I go at them. And when they're right, I pat them on the shoulder and I tell them that they were right and it was something good. I don't let anything get away. And I think, well, I got kids, doctors, lawyers, everything, man, coaches, and these kids are doing so well, and it just makes me feel good. I almost choke up when I start talking about some of them, because some of them, if you knew where they came from, that was, it's terrible, man. It's terrible. I went to a kid, and and you can see the dirt down below their floor in their house. Now, this same kid is one of the best doctors in New York. They say that if anybody want to get a surgery, they go to him. They say he make whatever they doing jump out, and then you just sew it up, And so you never know what people have to offer. Yeah. But if you give them a chance, and then you can understand, you're not going to save all of them. You can't save all of them. It's not in the books to save all of them. It's just like, but But if they give me 2%, I'm gonna give them that 8%. Okay.
Yeah.
And we can work. We can work. Just give me something to work with. Okay.
You know, that's why I love sports so much too, because I think sports is a microcosm of life. It's where you get to work through adversity and challenge and progression with a kid that you're working with. And then, like you said, I mean, you saw so many instances where, because you were able to work with them in that capacity and show that you cared for them, then it's after the sport is done in their life, they're going on to do all these great things.
Yeah, and then they're looking for somebody to care for.
That's,
you know, in the world. When I was getting my award in Eugene, one of the coaches walked up there and was giving the award, and he said, I never told you this, but we were at IGM at the national championship, and my high jumper blew his shoe out. And at the time, I think he was probably around about 6'6" at the time. And then I didn't have no money to get him any more shoes, and I asked anybody, could I borrow some shoes? But everybody, why am I gonna give you some shoes to beat me with, Yeah. And so I went and got some tape, and I taped those shoes up. And the way I taped them up, the guy said, well, that's the only way you can tape him up. So now that means he can't plant like he should. I said, oh, don't worry about it. And he said, he heard me taking this kid, said, look, you're going to jump high today. And he said, why? I said, because you don't have to plant. All you got to do is run through it and drive that leg around and turn that shoulder toward me over there. And you're going to go high. And the kid ended up jumping 6'11". Oh, got a made all American. And the coach tried to say, this kid jumping off his toes. I said, yeah. You teach him how to run through, and he believed in what I was saying, then he was successful because he believed in the process. And that's what happened to most young people now. They don't believe in the process. And I understand why, because there are some great track and field coaches out there, and there are a lot of perpetrators out there. People can't teach them the right techniques, the mechanics, or have the love for them. Everybody's looking for something for themselves. I know when people do things, I've learned that since I'm not with my job anymore, that it's people do things for themselves and acting like they're doing for something else. You have to watch folks when they started doing things. And I've noticed that all through my times growing up. There was never anybody I didn't like. And when I see the other coaches, I laugh and smile and grin with them. When they beat me, they would beat my butt good. I still laugh and smile at them. But one thing I found out, that was something they were doing good that I picked up. And probably something I might have been doing good, they should have picked up. But I look at everybody. Track and field is just like robbing a bank, boy. You see something good, you're going to snatch it, and try to use it on the right kids, the kids that you have. And so I pick up a lot of things from a lot of good coaches, and then I see some things that I wouldn't believe. And the young kids, they don't talk to, like I talk to the old coaches like Dr. Walker, Big House Gaines, Johnny McClinton, all these old coaches. I try to find out what made them tick. And when I talk to those guys, they would tell you exactly what's going on and how you should do things. And they're not telling you should do it exactly the way I did it, but you need to look at yourself in the mirror and see what's going on. And I try to help kids. And when I got a bad one, I sent them home. I sent one kid home, and his mother begged me for him to come back. Please let him come. I don't want to, he might get killed out here. Something might happen to him. And I said that only way I'm gonna let him back is that he's gonna have to listen and do what we asked him to do. And the kid got back, and thank you, God. He graduated, and he got a gold medal in the Olympics.
Wow.
Yeah. And so you have to do what you need to do. But those championships, I can't remember too many of them, because as soon as they're over with, we started training for the next year. We never shouted and had a good time. If we did, it'd be right after the championship and we done with it. Never lingered on a championship. And I guess that's why the kids like to win, because when we win, we just keep on moving. It's not like, wow, boy, we the greatest guys in the world, because we think there was more out there. We can win again. We won this time, we can win again. And the reason I won a lot of them, because every time I win a championship, that one is over with. I go back, I look at the results. I see who's running fast, how many people are there, who's coming back, who is not coming back. What do I have to neutralize whatever they got? Now, see, I never had a shot putter, a distant runner, a pole vaulter in the championship. I only had long jumpers, triple jumpers, high jumpers, and sprints from the 400, 800 down. And so folks thinking that, when you go to a national championship, you need to place where you're supposed to place. Sometimes you're going to give bonuses and sometimes you're going to get bonuses. And most everybody think you need a whole lot of folks to win champion. I won 10 with 6 or 7 kids.
Wow.
Yeah, I never had over 6 or 7 kids. And but they believed in and they did what they was taught to do, and their behavior, because see, I don't take no mess now. A lot of these coaches want to be a friend. Excuse me. I've never been a friend, a buddy. I've been a friend. I've never been a buddy of my athlete. You see, all my buddies make money like me. Kids don't make no money. I can be a mother, father, sister, brother, but I ain't gonna never be his buddy. See, he got to find somebody his age and doing what he's doing with nothing. Those your buddies. But don't come up and act like coach is your buddy now. No, that's not the way this go. And a lot of coaches try to be their buddy. And then when something come down, the respect is gone.
That's big.
Keep the respect of the student athlete,
Yeah, absolutely. You talked about, I like how you're talking about once a championship was won, it was on to the next one. And it was because not only you, but the athletes believed that there was something bigger and better out of there. And to me, it sounds like that belief was there because of how much positive affirmation and love and encouragement you were giving to these athletes all the time. And I listen to all this and it's like so much encouragement, positivity, love. And it's like, you don't want to be their buddy, but that doesn't mean you can't love them. Right. And it's like when they have all those things going for them, then they know you care about them. That gives you the ability to then make the correction when the correction needs to be made. Right.
Right.
But that respect is there. You're encouraging them. And then that all bleeds into that belief that we are capable of great things. We are capable of more. Is that how you interpret all that?
I interpret it just the same way you were saying it. And I've learned, it's not how much you have, it's how much you do. And so, we never had much at St. Augustine. So people thought we were a really rich school. Man, we the brokest people in town. Sometimes we had to go and try to borrow $50 or something from somebody to make a trip, and we go to the pin relays, and we'll get to the pin relays, and we'll get there, and we'll run, and we'll spend one night, and on Saturday night, we'll be in the finals, and kids will run 3:01 or 3:02, and we back on the vans driving back to Raleigh. But nobody never knew it because we didn't sit down and we don't discuss what's going on, because I always tell people, if you're not in the huddle, you don't know the play. Okay.
Yeah.
So leave it alone. I don't talk about nobody program or no coach or anything because I'm not in that coach's huddle and they're not in mine. And so they don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what they're doing. But one thing I'm going to do, I'm going to try to respect them for whatever they're doing and hope that they give me that same respect back. And we move on. But I've had some great kids. I've had some, and they're doing so well, man. I got kids doing well. And guess what? I've coached a lot of the kids' students too. That'll be they're kids.
Yeah.
I've coached maybe 2 generations of kids that graduated from St. Aug kids.
Wow.
And that's amazing. They send their kids back to me when I was there, and they still calling me, gosh, coach, what am I gonna do? I got a kid running. I have a young man now. He's a really big time lawyer in New York. And he always asks me for the workout and give his kid a workout. And his son now is running like maybe 47. And he's a junior in high school. He's going to his senior year. And he's going to be good. But now he wants to know what to do with him. And I told him, you know what we're going to do? We're going to find a good program. We're going to find somebody who care about him instead of caring about what he's doing. And Batman, daughter's running real good. Shanti Jackson in the sprints. And he was saying, well, coach, I'm going to have to turn over to you next year. She'll be a senior. And what we going to do with her? I said, whatever we're going to do with her, she's going to enroll in somebody's college. And then we'll find out what's going on after that. We hadn't decided what college she was going to, where we're going to send her or what we're going to do. But she's going to have to get a taste of that college life somewhere, and learning the discipline of the world. Yeah,
that's special. The double generations, and I got to meet Bershawn Jackson at one of the meets up at UVA. Great guy as well. So I know you've worked with a lot of special athletes. And one thing I want to ask you about, and talking about UVA, we actually met earlier this spring, and the way I got introduced to you is I overheard you telling a story about. I'm going to shift gears here a little bit, where you almost lost your life.
Right.
And this was in Dubai. It was
in Dubai, yeah, in Doha, Dubai, and Doha, Qatar.
Doha, okay.
And Qatar at the World Championship. And I had kids running in the World Championship. And at the time, my wife and I had my grandkids and my daughter and everybody, my son-in-law, all of them was with me. And we had the meet doesn't start until late in the evening. And even it was hot then, but they had an air-conditioned stadium. And so that's the first time I ever seen an air-conditioned stadium outside.
Wow.
And I mean, you almost have to wear a jacket in the stadium and look at the skies and the stars. And it was amazing. And so early that morning, we started to get up and go out to the desert, ride the camel and go down to the ocean and get in the water. The water's like 95 degrees warm. And we were just doing everything. And on our way back, we rode the camels and had the falcon flying and going and coming on Yum and all kind of stuff. We did all the great things. On our way back home, I looked over there and I saw these ATV machines. And I said, boy, we got to get some of these. So I bought every one of the machines. And we're going to ride the light over the desert and up and down. And it was good. Everybody and the guy said, don't go over 35 miles an hour. And I said, okay. And don't y'all go over 35 miles an hour. But for some reason or other, the devil made me do it. Kind of went about 60 miles an hour. Went up a sand dune, came back down and went to the side. And I know that thing rolled over me because I wouldn't turn it loose, rolled over me about 5 times. And I just laid there. And my son-in-law was up further and he thought I was fixing the machine. And he decided to just go back and see what was wrong. And the machine had to push me down in the sand. And he pulled it off me. And he said that I said, take care of the family, because I felt like everything had left my body. I felt like I was really dead. I saw this big white light. I looked like I was in helping with angels and stuff. I mean, this is really happening. And I didn't know, I don't remember nothing else, but my wife said that they brought an ambulance out and he said, nothing he can do. And then they somebody had a helicopter to come out, and then it was too small. And then they sent another helicopter and it was the right size. So my son-in-law jumped on that one with me. And he said that, they got there, they cut all my clothes off and everything. And they said that usually people my age don't survive those kind of accidents. And so I remember when I really got my senses back, I asked the doctor because I felt so bad. I didn't feel nothing. I couldn't walk. I couldn't do nothing. And I just asked him, was I going to live so I could tell my family to go on back home, And he said, Inshallah. I said, what? He said, Inshallah. I said, what that mean? He says, God's will that you live. We are only the hands of God. We don't know whether you're going to live or not. Usually people your age don't live behind something like that because I broke my shoulder, my scapula, both lungs collapsed. I broke 4 ribs and he lacerated my liver. And you don't use the man. And the whole time I was over there, they gave me no pills, no nothing. I didn't take a pill the whole time. I said, I don't believe that. I mean, the only thing they gave me was oxygen, And it was scary until I got back home. When I got back home, they took the oxygen and I had to bring a doctor and a nurse back with me before they let me come home.
Wow.
And when I got to Atlanta, they took their equipment and told them they can't practice in the United States. And then they said, well, what about the oxygen? They said, you can't give him any more oxygen. You're not able to practice in the United States. And God was just with me. Somebody worked at Delta Airlines that knew my daughter and knew me. And they found some oxygen and sneaked it in there to me. But when I got back to Raleigh, all my lungs were blood clogged all over. I was clogged. And then I got to the hospital and then the guy said, well, you can't come to this hospital. This is not a trauma hospital. And I said, well, it's the closest hospital to the airport and I don't live too far from here. And they told me to come here and get checked up. But after they found out I had clogged all them, he said, you have to go to another hospital. And so the other hospital said, we don't have any beds. You got to stay there. Y'all got to take care. And then he said, no, I'm not going to do it. And then I called a good friend of mine, Dr. Zura and Dr. Hook. They came and they said, what's going on? And the guy said, well, we don't do trauma and we don't let him in. And he said, well, I tell you what, you're going to let him in tonight. Y'all going to find a bed because the owner or the head of the hospital and Dr. Zura belongs to the same country club. And they play golf together almost every Sunday. And he said, you want me to call him and tell him? And the guy said, no, and I got in. And then they had to give me blood and all kind of stuff. And here I am talking to you now, Daniel, a great man, a nice young man. And I pray for young people like you every day, man. You don't understand and people don't understand. The world needs young people like you, okay? And you keep doing what you're doing because it's very important for the world to understand what's going on out here and how we can help each other. This is the United States of America. And everything team I've been on, I never had my name. I had USA, United States of America. And I represent everybody in the United States of America. And I'm going to give them all the respect and love that I can give them. If they give me 0, I'm going to still give them 100. Okay?
I love that.
That's the way I feel about folks,
I love it. I got to ask you this too, because you've referenced, faith a few times. For you, George, how important is your faith for you? And is that shaped what you've done just throughout your life and as a coach?
Well, faith is very important because faith is about love. Love is the key to life. When life started, everything was about love. Joseph loved Mary, Mary loved and Joseph loved Jesus. It's all about love. And, Adam and Eve, it was about love, and so the world should be about love.
Yeah.
You have to love each other. I didn't say you got to be each other's friend or buddy.
Yeah.
But you got to love people, and just love. I mean, come on, why shouldn't I love you?
Mm.
You could be my son, man. I love it.
Yeah.
I love you. You're a nice kid. You somebody I can just hang around with all day, though, man. Just talk to you
I
and
appreciate
have
that.
to love.
Yeah.
People have to love each other. It's nothing else out there for us, We
Yeah.
only live this one time. And if you go to the good heart and a lot of love in your heart, the man above, God, will work for you. He will work with you and work for you.
Yeah.
And
Such
he
a
has done a great job working with me and working for me and all the lives that I've touched. I know during my coaching career, I had over at least close to 600 kids graduate from college.
Wow. That's incredible. But you're such a great example of that, George. And this is awesome. Maybe we just kind of one final question, just as we wind down here, to ask you if there were maybe any of, and I know you have so many stories, but maybe if there's a most memorable moment in your coaching career, or something that was maybe the most impactful in your coaching career, if there's something that comes to mind where you're like, that's a great story that I would want to share.
Whoa, I tell you, it's been good. I told you the story about the world championship. That was good with them guys.
Yeah.
But for college, I think we won 5 championships with the mile relay, the last event.
Wow.
And that was very exciting to see those kids win at the last event. And because Abilene had some studs, and we beat them in the mile relay. To beat them by 1 point. We won about 4 or 5 championships by 1 point.
Wow.
And that it was always exciting. But I think the biggest story that we drove from Raleigh, North Carolina, to Fargo, North Dakota, to the indoor championship. And so I was on the NCAA committees. So I had my assistant coach in them, and we had 2 vans. And I told them I'm going to fly up and get with the committee, and y'all come on up. And on your way up, stop in Indianapolis, Indiana. And then that's where on the way up, there was an ice storm in West Virginia. And one of the vans slid off the road and was going down a deep embank, a gorge, and it got stuck into a tree. And the van was wrapped up in the tree, and the other people in the other van had to come and help and try to hold the van to keep it from falling down the gorge. And the kids had to get out. And then they finally pushed the van back out on the road. And then they drove all the way to Fargo, North Dakota. Wow. When they got there, I had to go ahead and declare them, because when they got there, they were declared and they had to warm up for the first event and get out and start running. And we ran, and we did this, we did that, and had hardly no sleep. And we won that championship. As soon as the championship was over with, we were back in the van driving back. I rode back with them then, back to North Carolina. And we drove all the way back to North Carolina.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. Didn't stay over anywhere then. We just drove straight on back. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's like that's over 20-hour drive.
Oh, man, this is like 25 or something.
Oh my God.
We just and so those are the kind of things and the kind of kids you have that persevere, and those are stories people don't know about because they're not in the huddle, so they don't know the play. But that's one of the things that really got me. And we drove almost to all the championships. Until the NCAA started paying for flights, we was in the NAIA. We drove to every NAIA championship. We drove to every NCAA. One time we drove to the NAIA championship in Memphis, Tennessee. And when it was over with, we drove to Illinois and participated in the Division II championship. And on the way to Illinois, we had a flat tire in one of the vans. And so we had to take the other van, and they went to the Illinois, and Jim Sackett was there. He gave us the tire for our van to get the other van back in. And we drove there and we ran in that championship. And I think we finished second in that one. And that's when the guy played with the Redskins, Green was running. And so also went 1-2 in the 100, my guy. But he didn't know how much my guy been riding and sitting up there. And then we finished there, then we took on back to Raleigh. And so people have no, and then other schools were flying in or coming in big old beautiful buses, but we were vanning ourselves to death in those. That's my story.
Yeah. I love what you're talking about, George. And just for the people that are listening too, I want to reiterate that point, because I've heard you talk about this throughout, is I think people oftentimes, they just make excuses for what they don't have or their resources. And they never want to start because they think, well, I got to get this or get to this place or have all these things in place first. And it was just, you guys just made it work. And it didn't always, it didn't always look pretty.
No.
But the journey, that's the thing, is the journey oftentimes doesn't look pretty.
It's not going to be pretty for most of the times because it's an experience. And most of the things that most people don't understand is that none of us know what the unknown going to bring to us. The unknown is really crucial out there, because if everybody knew what what was coming next, we could adjust to it. But everything is unknown. You don't know what's next. You don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes. You walk out of this telecom or nothing. We don't know.
Right.
So that's why you have to be able to give love and understand and do the best you can with what you have, because if I hadn't just worked with what I have, when they told me to be a track coach and I knew there was no track out there and nothing, and I hadn't asked those people, Dr. Walker and Gaines and Dr. McLennan and all of them, what do I need to do? Then I could have easily given up and said, no, I'm not going to do this. But I know these kids needed help. They were eager to go to college. They wanted to be somebody or do something just like me. I was eager to go to college, I didn't know what I was going to do in college. Coming out of Miami, Florida, everybody coming down there recruiting us. And the guy from the University of Kansas, we thought we were going there, me and my friend Jesse Holt, and I was going to go there to play basketball. And then they told me, we want you there to run track. And I'm saying, no, I'm not going to run track. I want to play basketball. I like basketball, and I was going to be up there with me and Gail Seals, we fraternity brothers. Wilt Chamberlain came and talked. But, it wasn't for me. And so it didn't work out. So I didn't even get a chance to rest. I stole away at night and caught the bus all the way back to 3.5 days back to Miami. And I was in Miami on October the 22nd. I never forget. And they told me I could come to St. August, although St. August started in August. And I'm saying I could still come to school. And they said, yeah. So I caught that bus and went on up there. And you might have thought my name was Charlie D because all I got was C's and D's that first semester. But then things started coming around and I started figuring it out and processing. And I said, well, these people took care of me. And then when I got a chance to be taking care of some other young folks, I stayed at St. Augustine's because Dr. Mike McGee offered me the job at South Carolina. He offered me the job at Cincinnati, and he offered me the job at USC because Dr. McGee and I and Dr. Walker were real close friends.
Yeah.
And he was the deep. We were real close. And Dr. Walker, every time I go, Dr. Walker said, well, take George Williams for your track coach. And he said, okay. And he asked me to go, but I backed off, and a lot of times my wife didn't want to get up and move, and they were talking about how much money I could make. But you know what? I'm doing real well now, and I didn't make all that money.
Yeah.
But I had right people that come along and say, Coach, why don't you invest in this? Why don't you invest in that? Why don't you invest in this? And like Dr. Walker told me, he said, boy, if we'd have had $2,000 when Nike first started, we weren't rich now. We could invest in that, but we didn't have it. I had kids I had a daughter I was trying to raise and stuff. So
yeah.
you just go on and do what you have to do with what you have. And those people who have all those things, if they don't have any love in the outfit, they're not going to win anyway.
Yep.
No,
you're not on.
Because the track is the same thing. You tell that athlete, okay, let's go, line up.
Yeah.
And keep keep left all the way. And you come in, you win. First man across the line win. Okay. And you got to have something to work with. I never forget one day, I was doing pretty good in track, and I walked up to my wife, and I wasn't making no money or nothing. And I think I won the championship. And I said, oh gosh. She said, what do you want to eat tonight? I said, oh, give me a steak and everything, and this and that. And so when dinner time, she called me. I was looking at TV. She said, it's time for dinner. I went there and I looked at my plate. It was a pork chop. I said, well, where's the steak? She says, in the store. We don't have any. And boy, I made that the best tasting pork chop I ever had in my life. That's all I had. So I had to make that pork chop taste good. I put all kind of ketchup and everything on it, but it was a good pork chop,
Yeah.
So you learn how to have to deal with what you have and make the best out of what you got.
Yeah. Man, George, so much wisdom in everything you're saying. And I know people are going to get so much out of this, and just hearing your story and your mindset. And this has been an honor for me to be able to talk with you today. And so I just really appreciate you being on here. And maybe one, just as we close it out, last final thought, if one thing that you're excited about today as you get up every day, and even at this phase in your life, something that just gets you going in the morning.
And I always have sayings for my kids, and that's one thing, keep them, like I always tell them, one thing I learned in life, that God didn't make winners and God didn't make losers, but he made choosers. Your choice, you have to make a choice of what your life should be about and where you want to go. I can't make a choice for you. Your dad, mom, and none of them can make a choice for you. You have to make a choice. And God gave most of us the ability to make choices, to choose.
Yeah.
And I always believed in that. And those coaches got to understand you're going to have some outstanding athletes and some good athletes and some fast athletes. But don't forget, your ass might be fast, but you're going to class, okay? Make them go to class. Make them get an education. Work with them on the education part. And there's the one who just come there and run fast and then go pro, still keep them in school. When Batman first signed his pro contract, he was a sophomore in college. And I said, okay, in signing that contract with Nike, put this clause in. You make sure they pay for your rest of your education. And so I kept him in school until he finished. And now he got the coach's job. He got my job. So that's good,
Yeah.
So that's great,
That's great. Well, George, thank you again so much to the audience.
You're a great young man, and you keep it up. And I love you young people, man. I love what y'all are doing. And don't think we don't. Now, I'm the one that's short. Those who are hiding it, they better start showing it, because you all are all we got. We don't have anything else. The young generation is all we have.
Yeah.
And they will determine sometime how long a lot of us gonna live by giving us insurance and giving us love and care. I need more love now than I did when I was young. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm older now, and the most of us do. All of our coaches, and our memories are getting very thin, and so. But thank you And anything I can do for you and your podcast and any folks and any young folks out there, if they're in Raleigh or somewhere close around and they need some special training, yeah. And I don't do it for money. I do it for love. I do it for love. Okay.
Okay. Well, George, legendary coach, even better person, and even better man. And thank you so much for being on. Really appreciate this. And guys, to my audience, share the episode, send it out, and be blessed. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.